Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Scott Luton, Greg White with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Gregory, you are back. Blow the horns. Have a parade. It is Greg White back in our midst. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
You have been missed. Do you feel missed?
It feels good to be back. Yeah, I guess missed. Yeah, it feels great to be back. Yeah, it's good to see
Good.
everybody or hear everybody. I
We're
can't see everybody.
well, welcome back. Of course, not taking anything away from Constantine and Mary Kate and Kevin, who all filled in. Allison, I think, as well. Had a great episode with Allison.
Yeah,
But great to have you back, Gregory.
thank you.
We got a lot to get into today. And we see we've got already Josh and Angela and Zanel, Ola Watosin. We'll say hello to everybody in just a minute, but great to have you and everyone else here with us today. So, Greg, it is the Supply Chain Buzz, as you know, a live show that comes at our global Supply Chain Now fam every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Greg, what do we tend to cover here on the Buzz?
Only everything you need to know about supply chain, right? The trends, the issues, the opportunities of the moment, right? So once a week, you get to hear about everything cool that's happening in supply chain.
That is right. And so,
which is mostly you, Scott.
But hey, folks, we want to hear from you as well. So we'd love for you to, just like many folks are doing right now, throw your comments, your perspective right there in the chat, and we'll share that throughout the hour as well. And folks, if you're listening to the podcast replay, which a lot of folks do, hey, consider joining us live on LinkedIn or YouTube or some other social media channel of your choosing. We'd love for you to be part of the live show every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time. Okay. So, Greg, let's go ahead and share a few resources with folks. We're big on sharing resources, right?
Look at this. And we got tons of them.
We do. We got tons of stuff to help folks out. Look at those vibrant vegetables. I wish I could grow vegetables like that, Greg. Can you?
Yeah. No, but Vicky can. And if we could interview the deer around our house, they could all verify that she really grows fantastic tomatoes. I'd say that's her specialty.
Love that. And hello to Vicky wherever you may be. The controller with two green thumbs, it sounds. Yeah. Hey, so with that said, we dropped over the weekend and we focused it on Pollinator Week, which just concluded yesterday. So here's a did you know, Greg? And folks, you'll have to dive into this LinkedIn newsletter. We'll put the link in the chat so y'all can learn more about what makes up Pollinator Week. But Greg, did you know that scientists estimate that about 75% of all the world's flowering plants and about 35% of the world's food crops are dependent on animal pollinators, not just bees. There's about 3,500 types of bee species that help with pollination. Of course, they're probably the hardest working pollinator, but there's all sorts of animals that serve as pollinators. Did you know that, Greg?
I did not know the all sorts of animals part. I knew the bees, of course, and I guess that was kind of when the post went up about this thing. I was like, what else pollinates stuff? Right? But it's all kinds of. Sometimes it's just kind of a passing glance, literally, like somebody runs into a plant and that somehow pollinates it. Right?
That's right.
Crazy.
You're absolutely right. So dogs, deers, bats, other insects. All of those folks and a lot more serve as pollinators in some capacity. And it really is, because I think most of the world thinks of bees. And of course, bees are the 80-20 rule seems to come to my mind, but that might not be nowhere near accurate. But anyway, the greater point is we got to take care. The bees have gone through in recent years a lot of turmoil that's hurting their populations, right?
Yeah, a lot of the chemicals that we use for killing other bugs or for fertilizer or whatever appear to be like knocking down the bee population. So I can tell you here, northwest of Atlanta and in Switzerland.
Okay.
And up north, up north in the northern part of Georgia as well, they are actively cultivating colonies of bees. Are they called a colony? It's a hive. Whatever. big old groups of bees.
Highly scientific term.
Yeah,
that's folks.
North Georgia term.
Right. Hey, check out With That Said. It goes out just about every weekend, usually Saturday or Sunday morning. and it kind of runs the gamut. It's a weekly variety newsletter, I'll call it. We cover all kinds of things across. With that said, speaking of resources, Greg, we got a lot more work to do this week. So this coming Thursday at 12 noon Eastern time, we've got John Lander with Omnia Partners coming to us to talk about revolutionizing your purchasing process in the current market. Greg, procurement's cool again, right?
It's as cool as it's ever going to be. I mean, I think we in supply chain, we can't reach too high, right? We've gotten to the big kids table. Now the C-suite even listens to us. I don't know if we can say cool yet, but we're way in the heck up there.
Yeah,
we're not just geeks anymore, right? We're not those goofy cats only in shirts with their name tag. Although you don't underestimate the power of a shirt with a name tag on it. I like to keep one around. Right, but I think I think companies, even consumers, are recognizing the importance of supply chain. So nobody doesn't know what supply chain is these days.
That's right.
Nobody
that is
does
right.
know.
So, folks, join us this Thursday as we dive into some expertise and some insights on, again, revolutionizing your purchasing process in the current market with John Lander from Omnia Partners. Now, along these lines, Greg, one last thing to share with folks. Along these lines is if you don't want to miss sessions like that one or lots for webinars, we've had some home run webinars here lately, or some of the exclusive tools and resources that come about due to some of these live events. If you don't want to miss all that stuff and a lot more, join the Now community. And folks, you can do this. It's real simple. I think you use the link that Amanda and Catherine are dropping in chat, and it's very rigorous, Greg. First name, last name, email. First name, last name, email. That's as rigorous as it takes to join the Now community. Greg,
can you fog a mirror? If so, and you care about supply chain in any way, sign up.
That's right. Sign up. And we've got the link there, folks. You can hit that and you can sign up, joining about 25,000 other folks that stay in the know because they're cool, like Greg White. Or, speaking of Greg, T Squared, who I think I referenced on Friday.
I think we can say that. Yeah.
He holds down Fort for us on YouTube, but he also is commenting here. He says, we're no longer the stepchild of business. He's talking supply chain, right, Greg?
Yeah, no doubt. The whole organization. Yes. And also a good follow on the only place I see him is LinkedIn, Tyrone Thorpe. So
write that down. Tyrone Thorpe.
And that's why the T squared. Get it?
Tyrone, great to have you here as always. Speaking of, so folks, again, we've got a link there to join the Now community so you don't miss any of our live events, the tools and resources that come out of all those things. So join it there. I want to welcome in Gaurav is with us via LinkedIn. I think I said that right. If I didn't, please let me know. Great to have you. Syanton, you think I got that right? Syanton? Greg?
Ooh, that's a tough one. The last name is actually easier. Bhattacharjee.
Okay. Man, I'm impressed. Hey, but regardless, welcome, Syanton, via LinkedIn. Great to have you here.
I think that's about right.
I think so too.
Check us on it. Yeah. Try to spell it phonetically for us. We want to get it right.
Josh Goody is back with us, and he's talking about the bees and the pollinators. He says, hey, we got to check the soil health and a water pattern for the color of those peppers. Also, I think he was being maybe sarcastic because those peppers look so good. Also, he feels the pain about deer eating gardens, as you were just referencing a minute ago, Greg. For whatever reason, Josh says they love chives, tulips, and apples fresh off the tree. How about that?
They do love flowers, and the ones they don't love, it doesn't stop them from pulling them out of the ground by, trying them,
right?
Pulling them out of the ground and then spitting them out on the ground. So even the ones that they don't take away, you have to replant.
That's right. Speaking of procurement, Leonardo from Procurement Garage. Great to see you here, Leonardo, via LinkedIn. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And welcome to everyone else that is here with us today for the buzz. We've got a lot of stuff to get into here. All right. So, Greg, are you ready to get to work?
I believe that I am. Yes.
All
I think
right.
it's been long enough that I should be ready to get back to work. Don't you?
I do. Great to have you back. So,
Yeah. Thanks.
with that said, I want to dive into our first story here today. Remember the old Wendy's, the hamburger franchise from the 80s, the Where's the Beef ad? Remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It was
Yeah.
iconic
That
during
little
the
old lady.
80s. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Well, let's talk about Where's the Beef. So, according to a story from our friends at Supply Chain Dive, smaller and smaller cattle herds are pushing beef prices higher and higher.
Hmm.
The smaller herds are primarily due to drought conditions across the country. And of course, consumer beef prices, due to these smaller cattle herds, are approaching record level territory that was set during the pandemic. Greg, I'd love to hear your thoughts here.
I'd love to say it's time to become a vegetarian, but I've tried that and it's just not working for me. So I guess it's time to pay up, isn't it? I don't.
Mm,
Yeah. I mean, we reported a little bit on this some months ago. It may have been a year ago that this was starting to happen, and the same with farmed crops as well, and that we could expect to see, that we could expect to see the impact on down the road on, the center of the plate type items, and I guess this is the result of kind of the environmental conditions that we're experiencing in these parts of the world. So, we ride it out until the herds get bigger, or we pay more. And
mm,
what I think is really interesting is that it's not that the farmers are profiting so much more. It's just that it's virtually the same amount of work going into fewer head of cattle. So the fixed costs remain the same and drive the price up. And of course, scarcity drives the price up on the market side.
mm. It's really interesting. My brain doesn't always go to semiconductors when we're talking beef, but with all the ground being broken in various places across the world, but certainly some of the mega sites that have been announced here in the States, and all the water it takes to run those facilities. Man, where's it
Mhm.
going to come from? And we've certainly talked about that too. Where's it all going to come from? You know?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, well, the good news is we won't run out of water, right? Water does not escape the atmosphere. It gets constantly recycled through the air and through the ground. So we might run out of clean water, but we will not run out of water. What happens is the areas that are arid shift around the planet. So, there was a time, allegedly, even when the Sahara Desert was lush,
Really?
right? Allegedly. Not a
You're
geologist, and and, and unlike economists, I am not right as often as a geologist is.
Oh, yeah, that's great because our next story is all about the economy. So stay
Oh
tuned,
boy.
folks. But geology, yeah, you're bringing me flashbacks of my. I think geology was a big part of my seventh grade science curriculum that I struggled throughout. So, but good stuff there, and I always appreciate you bringing the good news. Hey, speaking of, so Greg, just to recap, y'all check out the story via Supply Chain Dive. We dropped the link in the chat as well. So, Greg, curious as we're talking beef, what is your favorite steak cut?
Well, my favorite cut is porterhouse, but
Okay.
I mean, as those are 20 ounces minimum, and now with the thickness that they love to cut them for, I don't know, to be impressive, 35 ounces,
Mm,
right? Approaching 3 pounds. I don't eat them very often. So absent that, a really great tenderloin. Tenderloin is a great, usually called a fillet.
yep.
And I love a KC strip, which is a New York strip on the bone because you get a lot more flavor when the
Mm,
meat's on the bone.
man.
Sorry for the description for all you vegetarians out there.
That sounds delicious.
Farm
And
kid. Yeah.
and kind of like you though. So I used to love the New York strip growing up. That was my
Hmm.
favorite growing up. And then when I married Amanda, her family introduced me to a really good seared ribeye, right? With
Hmm.
a nice
Oh yeah.
crust on the outside. That's really tough to beat. But to your point, we've also been eating smaller portions. So really, we'll go by the whole tenderloin, and then we'll portion it out to where it's like 5-6 ounces, and that's plenty.
It is.
A nice 5 or 6 ounce steak is kind of what we have evolved to, Greg.
The main reason you would want to cut a tenderloin thicker is to get, give you more temperature options, right? Because if you cut a steak really thin, like they do in Europe, as I've experienced painfully over the last month, it's really hard to cook it medium rare,
Right?
Which is just my opinion, the only way to cook a steak.
Yes. All right. So now that everybody is extremely hungry here on this Monday, June
right, or
26th.
grossed out, depending on your culinary choices.
A couple quick comments here. So T Squared, thank you, Clara Peller. Going back to Where's the Beef? That was Clara Peller, the actress. She owned that line, and to his point, it's been applicable ever since 2018. Good point. Now, Gene Pledger, Gino is back with us. Gino, hope this finds you well. He says demand moves around to chicken and pork when one protein gets out of line. That's a great call out. Greg, just last month or so, I think we're both big fans of Costco. Costco and some of the other similar retailers were giving reporting that was all pulled up to the government level. And one of the things that Costco was reporting was, to Gino's point, more and more chickens been bought rather than beef, which due to the higher pricing. So it's a great call out there, Gino.
I think it's important to understand too that beef, as I was just sort of alluding to, is very regional. North America, South America, Australia, Italy, pretty much Italy in Europe. And by the way, you can get good meat in Italy. But not a lot of other places. Pork is very prominent in continental Europe. Right. So, it's a regional dish, vast regions, admittedly, but this isn't a problem for a lot of places on the planet.
That's
because,
right.
To Gene's point, pork is the primary dish in a lot of European countries, especially the Germanic ones. And I ain't lying, that sausage is good.
So Jeff says, hey, looks like a good run for lab-grown beef. Maybe so, Jeff. Maybe so. We'll see. And Syed, great to see you here, as well as Kamisha. Welcome. Great to see you here as well. Look forward to your perspective. Okay, Greg, we got to keep driving here. So as I promised, we touched on geology a minute ago, and I don't think either one of us are going to be confused for geologists. Neither one of us may be confused for economists. Nevertheless, in the second story here today, speaking of spending more at the store, which we've been doing for a couple of years now, just about everything. Well, here's a little pseudo good news, I'm going to call it. Prices aren't going up as fast as they have been. So according to CNBC, the country's inflation rate in May, annualized rate of 4%, came in at its lowest annual rate in more than 2 years. But a few line items are running much higher than that 4%. Over this time a year ago. Food, which comes in at 6.7%. Housing, or shelter as they call it here, 8%. Transportation services, 10.2%. Greg, your thoughts here?
Yeah, the transportation services confused me because, freight, I don't know if that's part of the metric, honestly, but freight has been crashing, and you've been seeing a lot about it in the press and social media and that sort of thing. So that one surprised me. The other unfortunate truth is that's just for the U.S. So, again, having been in Europe, inflation is 16.8% in the U.K. So, and I think the other thing we have to acknowledge here is that it sounds like the way that it gets presented, it almost sounds like inflation is going down. It's not. It's only accelerating at a slower rate. Right. Whereas it was in the 10, 11% range. Now prices are only going up year over year by 4%. So what cost you $1 last year cost you $1.04 this year. By the way, based on the rule of 72, right? That means in 18 years, the price of everything will double at 4% inflation rate. So, and of course, everything has practically doubled because of the rate that things have been at since what, early 2021.
Mm.
So we're kind of rolling off some of the early dramatic inflation that we experienced in 2021, back when we were talking about the price of chicken wings going through the roof, which they did and have managed to stay there, right? And and another thing I think we have to acknowledge here is that the calculation for inflation has been, I don't know how else to say it, but manipulated, so that it doesn't look as egregious as it is. And in fact, if you look at inflation relative to the core inflation measures of the previous incredibly cataclysmic inflation event we had in the 80s, the rate is much, much higher, and had, even in the States, gotten at one point, based on that old metric, to about 16%. So, and I think everyone sort of intuitively knows that, because, I mean, you look at things like eggs and chicken wings and other things that have gone up by a significant amount. And you can see that it's going up by more than the 5 or 7 or even 9% that they were reporting.
Yes. I've got one of my favorite breakfast bars. As I was strolling through the store and I put my hand on the box to grab it. $672, Greg. I decided to leave those breakfast bars on the shelf. Okay, I might be exaggerating by $1 or $2.
But it felt like that, didn't it?
It did. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh.
I know. Vicky and I should be ashamed to admit this, but we were caught in the same deluge you were, and we had to dive into some place just to kind of get out of the weather, because there was one microburst after another, and it was a Taco Bell. So I ate a chalupa. Does that sound right?
Sounds
it's a really
good to me.
Thick taco shell thing. It was $4.59. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that you could get your entire meal at Taco Bell for $4.59.
Right.
It's just insanity how prices have gone up.
It is. You're right. All right. I got to bring in Josh's comment here. So, on Greg's point, lies, damn lies, and statistics comes to mind when politicians talk about inflation
That's right.
metrics.
Thank you for quoting the great Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain.
Love it.
There's
All
lies,
right.
there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Speaking of, I want to share one more opportunity to move right along. So Greg and I are hosting a live stream on July 11th. It feels so strange to be referencing July dates already, but hey, that's where we are. July 11th, we're going to be talking about successfully navigating retail peak season, 5 key strategies for shippers and carriers, with our friends from Vector and Coyote. So y'all join us for that. Greg, that should be a great session, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, anytime we have anybody from Vector on, that's always fun, just because of the breadth of what they do and their give forward strategy. And of course, Coyote is, big. They're big. That's right. So we're going to get a really broad perspective on the marketplace there.
Excellent. Y'all join us there on July 11th. We've got a link right there in the chat to do just that. Josh says the party pack at Taco Bell used to be $12. Now it's over $25.
What?
What in the world?
I cannot believe it. First of all, I hate Taco Bell. Sorry to anyone who loves it. I hate it. And every time I take a bite of it, I regret it. But and I just can't see people continuing to return to fast food when you could get something good for roughly the same price, right?
Right.
It's going to have to turn around.
I think it will. I'd
say it's the price of beef, but it has been scientifically proven that their food is not beef. So,
oh boy! All right. So moving right along on that note, this is an interesting story that hit my radar here over the weekend, Greg. And this is something we've really enjoyed talking about for a couple years now. This article here from our friends at Axios talks about a familiar theme for many of our listeners: the ongoing e-commerce battle between Walmart and Amazon. Now, according to this article there from our friends at Axios, they seem to think Walmart is approaching a tipping point in terms of that battle and might just be gaining the upper hand. I think that's I would agree with that. Now, Walmart has made big gains, as is pointed out in the article, in automation, really in lots of different areas across enterprise. And that, combined with its, of course, one of its big advantages, its large physical footprint, combined with big surges in BOPIS popularity, right? Buy online, pick up in store, or just maybe just outside of store sometimes. All of those things is what is giving way to the tide shifting faster in Walmart's favor. Greg, I can't wait to hear your thoughts here.
It makes me chuckle a little bit. Remember when everyone was afraid of Walmart coming into their community and, whatever they hated about Walmart. And now it's like the world is pulling for Walmart because they're the underdog to Amazon. It's still the largest retailer on the planet, right? And it's only in e-commerce where they even remotely need to catch up because they are a far bigger retail organization than Amazon.
Right.
But it is interesting. I mean, if you think about this, what was it? Was it 2019 they bought Jet? Which wasn't a big, it was mostly for the mechanism of Jet because they weren't that big of an e-commerce retailer then. And they have turned that into something really, really venerable. I don't know if you do Walmart.com or whatever, but I have an American Express card where I get a free Walmart Plus.
Okay.
A free Walmart Plus membership, which means it's nothing compared to the 120 or 140 bucks a year you pay for Amazon Prime nowadays. And it somehow feels better I can't believe I'm saying this but it somehow feels better to shop Walmart because Walmart is an established retailer. When I compare the reasons that Walmart does private label versus the reason Amazon does private label, Walmart finds where the value is not represented by the cost of a jar of pickles or whatever, and then they create a great value jar of pickles, which are substantially the same pickles without all the excess marketing cost, and save their customers money. Amazon poaches their most popular and highly profitable items on their site and makes them Amazon, basically stealing business for their own profit, not for the good of their customer. And that's a philosophical difference that has been well documented. And so somehow dealing with the largest retailer in the world makes you feel like you're pulling for the underdog when you do it online.
Right.
But it is nice to be able to pick the stuff up, to get it that day if you want. I mean, go get it yourself that day.
Yep.
Order it, and then if you're driving by a store, which you almost can't throw a rock and not hit a Walmart store in the U.S., you can just drop in and grab the stuff and go, and they are very efficient.
Yep. One other thing that this article pointed out, and y'all can check it out. I think we dropped the link there in the chat. Y'all check it out for yourselves. The drone battle, right? Drone delivery. That's probably one of the more surprising things. And we of course, we've interviewed Walmart executives and we've spoken about some of the big gains they've made in drone delivery. But I would have thought that by now Amazon would have made up more ground. But we're talking, if I got these numbers right, Greg, 10,000 deliveries last year for Walmart drone deliveries, and like 100 for Amazon, right? And for what I've read in other research, some of the areas that Amazon is trying to work out its drone delivery, where maybe 2-3 households are eligible for drone delivery, so they're not even be able to take advantage of just sheer numbers and experimentation. Your thoughts when it comes to drone delivery, and do you see that, Greg? Out of all the different ways that Walmart and Amazon, they're doing a lot of things similar, right? Like a driver program we talked about,
right?
And then they're doing some things unique. What do you think in terms of what Walmart is doing? What's one thing that you think is a really big differentiator as it seeks to gain more ground on Amazon?
Well, I can speak from real life experience. One, we interviewed their head of end-to-end delivery, and I think that's a really, really fascinating program wherein they can provide the services, the transportation services, not only for you if you are a vendor of Walmart to deliver with real efficiency because they're pooling orders from multiple vendors, but also on the other end, because it is end to end, to deliver the goods on your behalf. I think there's a lot of efficiencies there because their stores are inherently where the demand is because they scientifically place their stores where they were surrounded by their shoppers or potential shoppers. So their delivery efficiencies are substantial there. And this end-to-end delivery opportunity that they have is really fantastic. So, I invested in Free Spirits, the non-alcoholic spirits company, right?
Yeah.
So we actually talked with the folks at Walmart about both bringing the goods in and delivering them, not just on behalf of Walmart, but Free Spirits is in Total Wine and Kroger and all that sort of thing, but fulfilling those orders from their facilities for all of that sort of thing. So now they're competing with, not just Amazon, but all the other tiers of and other types of 3PLs and e-commerce fulfillment organizations. It's a really, really really good methodology. On the other hand, Scott, never underestimate Amazon. And I would argue, I wouldn't argue this. I would speculate that if Amazon is only lightly dabbling in drone delivery, they know something that maybe Walmart or we don't.
That's a good point.
Right? Because they are ruthlessly efficient when it comes to what's coming in the future and that sort of thing. I mean, let's face it, this was a company that started selling a few books online,
right,
and now is one of the largest retailers and one of the largest logistics organizations in the entire planet. So
that's a great point.
It's really hard to count them out. So my first question, if I were investigating this on Walmart's behalf, would be to say, what do they know that we don't?
Yep.
And it's just possible that Walmart is right and Amazon, or this article, I think its premise is that Walmart is ahead of Amazon on these things. That's also possible.
Yeah.
I mean, Walmart also pretty ruthlessly efficient.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. Hey, folks, what's your take? If you're vendors to both these organizations or if you're customers, I'd love to get your take. Like Natalie's here, Greg. And Natalie, great to have you here, as always. She says, looking forward to reading the article, of course, but as a vendor of both companies, Natalie says, I don't see this to be true. And I don't see where's my Walmart order on the neighborhood chat, Amazon all the time. And she also says Walmart and BOPUS, pick up, buy online, pick up in store. That's why there's no comments. And, that's a good chat, but they really, as folks are getting out, thankfully, and they're able to leverage that, it's become really popular. And so no doubt that's a big trend that Walmart is riding, to Natalie's point. Greg, I love Natalie's comment there from the vendor side of things, because what we've been chatting a little more about, with the exception of your most recent investment, I'd love to talk more about, but we've been talking maybe on more on the consumer side, the customer side. Any final thoughts in terms of what suppliers might be seeing from either organization?
Ruthless efficiency you can expect from both of them. I think there's more of a, and I'd put this to Natalie too. I think there's more of a partnership, kind of solution-oriented stance by Walmart. They used to be ruthless and miserable to work with, just like Amazon, right? And there are other retailers that take that position in dealing with their suppliers. But I think that's probably a difference that I expect to see. Certainly, you get a lot more engagement. Again, just looking at the Free Spirits example, closely collaborating with the category managers and the logistics people at Walmart. At Amazon, it's more of a transactional relationship, right? You're just selling your stuff on Amazon as a vendor, and just not quite the personal touch there.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're talking about ruthlessly efficient. We're way ahead of schedule, so we're going to give some folks a little bit of their time back. But I'm glad, Greg, now that you're back with us after your European travels last 3 or 4 weeks, you mentioned, and it's public knowledge now, so I think we can talk about it. You mentioned a recent investment you made. Tell us a little bit more. And folks, this is going to be a little shameless plug, but I find this intriguing, both the product itself as well as Greg's, I'll call it, for lack of a better phrase, rationale for where the market's going. So tell us more about this.
So it's so I'll describe the company really quickly, and then why it was both shocking and fascinating to me that there is opportunity here. So it's called Free Spirits, the Free Spirits Company, and it's non-alcoholic spirits made for mixing into cocktails. I can tell you that you don't want to sit down with a non-alcoholic bourbon and sip it next to your bottle of Eagle Rare, because while evaluating the investment, I did that very thing, and I was like, yeah, I'll take Eagle Rare every time. But it is remarkably similar, and this is the dynamic that is changing, is that Gen Y, millennials, and Gen Z are drinking less and less. They're getting their buzz a little bit different way these days. Apparently, when you're on shrooms, a nice non-alcoholic cocktail. No, I'm just kidding. No, but a lot of people are trying to moderate their drinking. A lot of people have quit drinking, but still want the social or even the flavor experience of cocktails. In fact, the CEO, Mylan Martin, was in the ad game. He was at one of the biggest advertising agencies in the country, which, if you've ever seen Mad Men, I mean, it's lunch with a couple martinis and that kind of thing. And he just kind of tired of that. And yet the flavor aspect of it was very enticing to him, and the social aspect of it, it's almost reverse stigmatized, right? Where, some people would look down their nose at people who do drink. People who do drink would look down their nose at somebody having a glass of water while everyone else is having a cocktail.
Right.
So it allows you to both have that experience and be inside the cultural norms of anything. And what has been found is that, like, our generation, Gen X, is also taking a drink off, is what a lot of people call it. So, they'll have a couple Manhattans, and then you can have a Free Spirits Manhattan, which I have had. And because, it's mixed, it tastes remarkably similar. And it's another way, instead of, having to take a time out like a Crown Royal commercial, and drink a bottle of water. Of course, you should do that as well anyway. I compulsively drink water. But it allows you to kind of continue enjoying without, overdoing it with the buzz. And the buzz. And and it's been fascinating. The market is growing like crazy. Spirits are very hard to do, but the company's been really diligent about making it a really, really good experience. So a good example, my favorite tequila is Clase Azul Reposado. They come in those really nice white bottles that look like a lamp.
Yep.
And the tequila, the Free Spirits tequila, tastes remarkably like that. And in a margarita, you would never even know the difference, because it even simulates the bite that you get from an alcoholic beverages. They use spices and active ingredients, natural ingredients too, to do that. And then the stuff is flooded with B vitamins and things like that to give you that the energy without the crash of a depressant like alcohol is. So yeah, I mean, I have to tell you, I did not get it at first.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who don't get it, and I think there will be a lot of people who never get it. But it's kind of fun to do every once in a while.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to quit drinking, right?
It's
just another way.
Option.
It's just another way to
option.
experience. Yeah.
All right. So folks can learn more. Greg, the name of the company again is
Free Spirits, the Free Spirits Company.
Free Spirits.
Yeah. If you want to follow it on LinkedIn or social media, it's usually TFSC or the Free Spirits Company.
Okay. Awesome. We'll look forward to learning a lot more. I've got to get a couple of bottles of, because they from what I saw, as you announced it, made it public, They had, as I ventured over to the website, the various products that came with recipes, all this stuff, from holiday
Yeah,
drinks to you name it.
yeah.
So we're gonna have to do some experimenting.
I think that's a great idea. Then look, think about this. Anytime is cocktail time, right? You and I could just sit here and drink cocktails the whole time.
That's right. Well, as we've talked about, maybe not on the show, but behind the scenes, who is that famous member of the Rat Pack, Dean Martin?
Yes.
So I've read in a couple different places that it's been rumored, because he would do his routines, whether he was singing or doing stand-up comedy or whatever,
Yeah.
with a small glass of what most people assumed was either bourbon or whiskey or something like that. But it's
Mhm.
long been alleged that in many cases that was apple juice and it was just part of his act. How about that?
So, it is also true, and that is true in many cases, not in every case. My
Right.
grandmother was a big Dean Martin fan, and she could verify from his breath that she was talking to him at some shindig or something one time. Um, um, but even the great David Lee Roth, when he would chug a bottle of Jack Daniels, about half the time that was tea.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I bet that's not the only interesting thing about David Lee Roth back in the days. I bet they could write some stories. I bet they have.
Though they
Um,
have, yeah.
all right. So, Greg, man, a very efficient buzz today. Really great to have you back. We've got, as we've started to lay out, not only do we have big shows just around the corner, July is jam packed. We've got a ton of live webinars and live streams that you're not going to want to miss. And Greg, the easiest way for folks, and again, I'm going to share this little tool here. The easiest way, folks, to not miss any of this stuff, even if you can't make the live event, if you sign up to be part of our Now community, you'll be able to access on demand very easily. And of course, also get the tools and resources that a lot of those shows offer from some of our partners there. So check it out. We dropped a link for easy registration as part of the Now community, and definitely want to share that with all of y'all here. Greg, it's easy to miss things, right? And it's even easier to take advantage of little tools like that so you don't miss
Yeah.
things here at Supply Chain Now, right?
Yeah, and I think what one of the things I think we ought to share, let's share it now, Scott,
Yeah.
is that one of the things we want to do with this community is create valuable offerings and engagement opportunities for you. So so this will get you informed so that when we're doing a show, or when we've got a sponsor doing a webinar or anything like that. It I assume, doesn't it get you on the with that said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, that's worth it. That one thing. But the other thing that does is as we build that community, we want to build other offerings. So we're going to start doing some things that are in addition to the shows, like research and analysis, and possibly some more in-depth news. We're going to do some educational things that we'll share, some of which ultimately down the road will be only for our subscribers, right? But right now, I mean, it's a great opportunity to get connected with us and just kind of follow us as we add some of these additional bits of information. Remember, our goal is to elevate the entire practice of supply chain and procurement and all of that. And so everything that we do going forward will be more than just these shows and more than just sharing the stories of people in the industry, but also the topics of the day, like we do on this. Some of our opinions, which are not very strong. We don't have very strong opinions at all, do we, Scott?
Oh boy.
Some of our knowledge and expertise, and that of some of the, as many of you have seen, the exceptional practitioners that we bring to you through a lot of these shows, and help impart knowledge to you, or you know what, if there is something you'd like to see in terms of a community offering, please reach out.
Excellent. I'm glad you mentioned all of that. We are definitely entering an exciting new chapter where, just like you put it, it's about lifting the craft, as we've used that word. You used that word prior. Lifting the whole craft, doing industry, doing supply chain management, doing leadership better, and not leaving anyone behind. So, folks, stay tuned for a lot more to come. And again, the easy step is to join the Now community so you don't miss a thing. Okay, Greg, I got 12:45. I'm fighting the urge to dive into 7 or 8 more things, but I want to touch on one thing before we take off.
I was going to say, I hope you pick one. Yeah.
I'm gonna pick one. Actually, I'm gonna pick 2. So, Greg, I've asked you this internally, on our team call on Friday. You shared a little bit about this, but I don't think you've had a chance to share with our Buzz and our Supply Chain Now Global fam. What is one? Your pick here? Either one of your favorite experiences as part of traveling and seeing Europe over the last month or so, or a tip, a suggestion for folks that may be gearing up for their own trip, and maybe they've got something in their blind spot that you can share that would help them have a better experience. Your pick, Greg.
Well, one, yeah, boy. One thing is embrace the vast, especially in Switzerland and Germany and France and Italy, embrace the vast transportation network. I mean, you can buy this thing, for instance, in Switzerland called Swiss Pass, and you wave your pass. You can get onto something as light as a bus, or you can get on what's called the Glacier Express, which is about an $800 round trip.
Wow.
And that's paid for. So I got a 15-day ticket. It was like $400 or $500. And I probably saved $2,000 doing that.
Wow.
And some of these, they're called panoramic trains in Switzerland. So the windows go all the way into the roof, and you just ride around. Literally, you can look at glaciers and lakes and rivers. They take incredibly scenic routes. Don't miss that, particularly in Switzerland and northern Italy and the east side of France. I can only speak to those from this trip because of that. So embrace that. The other is be prepared for 2 things: cigarette smoke. They still smoke incredibly. I cannot believe it, but they still smoke so incredibly in particularly Germanic countries, but all over Europe. So be prepared for that. That will be one of your most lasting memories. And every city will have dozens of cranes. You got to remember, a lot of these buildings were built 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, and there is always something under construction. So you'll have to take your pictures judiciously, right? And a good editing package to cut those, some of those cranes out will be good. But you cannot overestimate the beauty of the Alps and the overwhelming vastness, hugeness of glaciers. So we went to the Matterhorn, which is near Zermatt, Switzerland, and walked into a glacier, and we were millions of years below the top. I mean, that's the way they said it, right? Because the stuff on the bottom where we were walking had obviously been being packed down for millions of years. So, as they tell you this, fortunately, you're walking out when they told us this, you're below about 300 or 400 feet of ice and snow in some of these glaciers. So we weren't even on the top peak, the Matterhorn, at that point. We were in a glacier at the kind of the next peak down. When they tell you that, you're glad you're on the way out.
I bet. Man.
But it is truly amazing, and it is the higher you get. So we got to about 13,000 feet. The higher you get, the more it looks like another planet as you're kind of seeing the landscape. And you can see the constant shifting of the land up there. Even these giant mountains have huge boulders and small pebbles and everything in between on the way up, because they are constantly being, hit by rain and snow and wind and heat and all of that sort of thing. And even these giant stones, right, sticking out of the ground, are eroded and broken apart, in various places. It is just fascinating to see. Fascinating.
Wow. Okay. So stay tuned for a lot more from Greg's journey. But great to have you back, Greg. Really enjoyed the buzz here today.
Yeah.
Looking forward
Good
to
buzz.
good buzz. Looking forward to a very busy next 5 weeks in particular. And I bet August isn't going to slow down much. So, folks, stay tuned. Great to have you all to be part of this journey, and to look forward to sharing a lot more really inspiring, helpful thought leadership and practitioner perspective and expertise in the weeks around the corner. All right. So big thanks to all of y'all for joining up today. Thanks for all that you submitted and shared. Big thanks to Catherine and Amanda for helping to make production happen day in and day out. Greg, always a pleasure.
Likewise. Yeah, it's good to be back.
It is good to be back. Great to have you back. But folks, hey, take something shared here today, put it into action, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deeds, not words. And on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.